Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first Book Wyrm Club meeting of 2026. I'm Kat of Kat's Novel Adventures, and I'm being joined by Alex of Frank Fiction. Hello, Alex.
Hi, Kat. We made it another year.
We did. This is our first book that we have read for the Book Wyrm Club. This is January, February, Dark Sisters. You can't really see mine too well with the way the foil
The
is.
reflection, yeah.
But
But you get to judge for yourself which cover you like better.
yeah,
Kat's is the Owl Crate one. Mine's the Book of the Month version. Hers is way fancier than mine. It's cool. You have sprayed edges, don't you, Kat?
Yes, look at them.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, yours wins. Yours
Yeah,
wins.
the art in it is, I will say, is wonderful, but I do like Alex's copy. Also, I had that copy at one time until Owl Crate sent me this one. But yeah, so happy to see you, Alex. Very excited about talking about our first book, our January, February selection.
Yeah.
And I want to see who is joining us. I will say, if anything weird or wonky happens in the comments, maybe I shouldn't say anything so we don't jinx ourselves. But if so, one of the things I did see that worked last night was people were doing dashes in between words. So if we have to try that first, we can, but we can also, most of y'all that are joining me have my Discord. We can always comment in that worst case scenario. I feel like, if we have a plan, we won't ever have to execute it. Hopefully. Anyway, Alex even put in a tester just to see if it actually worked.
Yeah.
So
I'm seeing everybody. Yeah, nothing's weird right now.
Nothing's weird right now. Stina is here with us. Hello, Stina and Jasmine. Hey, everyone. Hoping chat works today. Jasmine actually was the winner of my Book of the Month Club, Dark Sisters.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
Yay!
And Angela is here, and Linda. Also love him.
That's Angel.
145. That's Angel. Why do we not have people's names? I would like to know.
It's random based off of like when YouTube did their reset. So I had to learn everybody's handle again, and I've been trying really hard. It's
okay.
Difficult.
Well, welcome, Angel. Well, and there's a big A there, so that'll help me remember. And then Jamie's here, woot woot, and Andy, woo! Andy got this through Book of the Month Club. I saw that. She posted her picture on Facebook.
Nice.
And Liz is here. I'm so excited to get spoiled because this one looked so interesting. If you don't know, Liz is having an analog year, and she's not reading anything. It's like 30 years or something. She's like going back in time and reading.
Oh.
Yeah. So she's not reading anything current this year. Yes. And then she's having an analog life, renting DVDs and, not streaming and all that kind of stuff. And then Heidi is here. Hello, Heidi. Heidi's usually here for support for us, and we appreciate that. Eleanor's here. Hey. Jasmine said, wow, Kat's book cover is beautiful. Again, thank you for sending that book to me via the contest. You are quite welcome. I like getting books in people's hands that I know will appreciate them. And ooh, wow, Kat, that's an impressive addition. It is really nice, I will say. Right. Yeah. And all comments working today. I'm so happy.
We'll take it.
Jack is here. I'm here. I'm going to rate this. Oh, he's going to do ratings first, but let's hold off on the rating when we get there. But we're happy to see you, Zach. And Andy said, when I saw you pick the book a few days ago, I had it on my shelf, so read it pretty much cover to cover yesterday.
Oh,
and Zach said, luckily I kept it simple and didn't make my handle on YouTube Winter Beast. I want to mention something before we get into everything. Zach made a playlist for Dark Sisters and posted it in the Dark Sisters channel of Discord.
Oh,
and
cool.
If anybody wants to go listen to it, I listened to some of the songs in it. Very, very nice compilation of songs. The only other time I've ever listened to music attached to a book was when I read Mexican Gothic. There was a playlist that was provided, and it was really cool. And I still have that playlist in my music. So I really love that. But I had asked Zach if I could put the link in here, but he never responded to me, and I didn't want to do it without asking for permission.
Good
It's
job, Zach.
because I haven't finished the book yet because I'm still having eyeball issues, so I might jump out early. That's
okay.
That's fair.
We'll announce when the spoilers happen.
Yeah, we'll let you know
So.
when it happens, and we're going to put our little tag in there, and I'll go back to Zach's comments. So, Alex, give us a brief summary.
Yep, it's going to be real brief. So, Dark Sisters by Kristi DeMeester is the story of 3 generations of women who are all related to one another but exist in very different periods of time. And they are experiencing life around like a very strict evangelical church. And so you have Anne, who is alive during basically what is the Salem witch trials. You have Mary, who's in the 1950s, and you have Camilla, who is in the 2000s. And we're going to talk about each of the women individually, which is why I'm not giving more than that.
Okay, so let us know in the comments if you read it, didn't read it, or you DNF'd. We would like to know that. If you read it, red heart. If you did not read it, black heart. And if you DNF'd it, a skull. And we would love to know that. So we're going to see what you have on the comments for that. And then we're going to talk about ratings. While you were putting your info in the chat, Zach did say I could put the link for the playlist for y'all in there. There's the share button.
Also, Kat, I can't believe I didn't say in the description that they're linked by a curse. This is a horror novel. I basically just described historical fiction. I'm like, that's not right.
Yes, and if anybody's participating in Folklore February, this counts. It's considered folk horror because it has folkloric elements in it. So yeah, if you read it, it does count. So let me get this in here, and I hope that y'all will check this out. This is Zach's playlist. Just something a little extra for y'all. And also, if you haven't checked the channel, I also put an interview with Kristi DeMeester in there that I think y'all might enjoy as well. It was nice seeing her, the way she looked. She looks different in the interview than she does on her photo in the back of the book. So let's see what everybody did. So Angela read it. Jamie read it. Jasmine read it pretty quickly, actually. Zach read it. Heidi did not read it. Hello, Catherine. So nice to see you. I read it. Very nice. Eleanor read it. I think Catherine actually read it early. So like early on. Yes, if I'm not mistaken. Nice. Here is Zach's playlist for anyone who might be interested. And Jamie said, my Folklore February reading includes Dark Sisters and Mary Poppins. Talk about polar opposites. 100%. And Linda did finish the book. Yeah, I saw the people that are here pretty much said if they finish like in the channel. So that's good.
Well, good. No DNFs.
So the only person who has not finished is Stina. And hopefully she won't DNF it, and then it will be good, because
I'm going to say she won't. I believe she won't. If you can get halfway through this book, I don't think you would DNF it after that point.
Right.
That's my opinion.
And Zach said, I will note the playlist starts off soft and pretty, but gets harsher, more aggressive the further down you go, which is good because that is the pacing of the book, I would say. And yes, I read it early, so I don't remember many specifics. Well, hopefully we'll jog your memory a little bit, with that. Angel says, I'm with Stina. So Angel has not finished either. And I'm not seeing all the comments again. Sad. That is sad. And Stina says, I'm invested. Well, I'm glad to hear that. So let's go ahead and talk about our ratings, what everybody rated. Alex, would you like to tell me what you rated it?
I would. So I am extremely happy with this choice. I think that the year started out really strong, in my opinion. I have already recommended this book to 3 friends. So I think very highly of it. And I'm I'm waffling right now between like a 4.5 and a 5. The it usually when a book is a 5, I like know at my core that it is, but this book is definitely more than a 4. Because when I was about halfway through it, I was getting that feeling. I'm like, okay, I probably give it like a 4, maybe a 4.5, and then I got through to the end, and I was like, okay, this is at least a 4.5 because I heartily will recommend this to people. So that's what I'm going to go with right now. 4.5.
Well, I am going with a 4. That is mine,
Okay,
a 4.
cool.
And I mean, there's just some things about it. There's like one thing that I really wish I could clarify, and we'll talk about why,
Okay.
about it. But yeah, it's definitely not a 5 star for me, but it is a 4. I could see maybe a 4.5, but I'm going to stick with the 4. I think I enjoyed it. I really did. I really did enjoy it. But it's just, it's like a feeling you have
Yeah,
sometimes. Like,
yeah, a
you really
5 to me is a very specific
exactly. I think when
feeling.
you have
Yeah,
that 5 star, it's like nobody can tell you otherwise. It doesn't matter because you just feel something in it
yeah,
about it. But
yeah,
I also very much enjoyed this, and I would recommend it to people to read. Um, because I found it very fascinating. I found it very sad. I found it what is the word? Liberating at one point. I mean, it's just a lot of emotions. It just
yeah,
brought a lot of emotions up, which I really appreciated. And this is the first time I've read anything by Kristi DeMeester, so I have nothing
yeah,
to compare her to
me
with her
neither.
writing or anything like
I
that.
thought this was a debut, is it not?
I don't think so. I think she
Okay,
has no, I know for a fact it's not a debut. She
okay,
has a book that is called, and she has short stories. She has a book called Such a Pretty Smile, and don't know, that might be a debut novel, but she also has other like short stories, like collections.
mhm,
So, and I've heard great things about her other book. So I don't know. I think it's nice that she's also writing horror. You
mhm.
know, it it's she one of the comments she kind of made was like you were kind of like I don't know, expected to write a certain kind of genre. Now it's like you can get out and write
Yeah,
the genre you want to
yeah,
write, kind of
yeah,
thing.
100%.
So Zach says, I'm here. I'm going to rate this at 3.5 or 4, depending on how the discussion goes. I haven't decided yet. Very nice. Very, very nice. Okay, so let's go through and let me get back where we're at and see what everybody else's ratings. Linda said a 4. Zach again said 3.5, leaning towards 4. Jasmine said 4 for me. Andy said 4. Eleanor said 3.5. Jamie said, I'm at a high 4, either 4.5 or 4.75. Catherine said 3.5. Stina's thanking Zach for the playlist. Angela said 4, but I didn't reach that rating until after halfway
And
through
that's what
it.
I'm saying, it gotta get halfway. Once you get to that
Yes,
point, it's different.
yes. And is there another book that it reminds you of? Oh, yes.
For Cat, it does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it does. It does in the sense of like the women, like instead of a patriarchy, it's a matriarchy kind of situation. If anyone has not read Harvest Home by Thomas Tryon, I would highly recommend that. It's told from a different perspective, but it gives me those kind of vibes.
okay.
Um, Even though it's not exactly the same, if that makes any sense. But
I'm gonna add that to my
yeah,
TBR.
I
I
would.
don't
It's an
know that.
older book. I believe it was published in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken. And Harvest Home was a 5 star read for me. Um, and it's folk horror, so you're going to find a similar pacing kind of thing. Zach said, "This is my second Kristi DeMeester. Such a Pretty Smile was a 3.25 for me. This is better." Excellent. So you see, you have a point of reference So, like, if you know you gave that a 3.25, you know that your rating for this one's gonna be higher. And yes to Angela, same for me. It really ramped up during the second half and totally stuck the landing. I like that. I like that very, very much. Okay, so we got some good ratings. I think it's good. Anywhere from 3.5 to potentially 5. Don't you think, Alex?
Yeah, I definitely think the highest for anybody is probably going to be a 4.5. Jamie said maybe a 4.75. I don't think it is technically a 5. I feel like I would know if it
Yeah,
was.
yeah. You would have it
Yeah.
like it would like hit you in the
Yeah.
gut.
We've only had one book that I read for book club that was a 5 for me. And that was our very first book ever that we read. So, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about our characters before we get into and this is not a spoiler, so Stina can still hang out with us because she started the book, so we
Yep.
know that she knows. But let's just talk about them just for a second. We have Anne Bolton, who is 1750.
Yep.
She is a healer,
Mhm.
but she's, you know, classified a witch, I guess, just because she of the way she goes about it. I didn't really think that she had any I didn't think of her as a witch, like magical power. She kind of reminded me of the main character in Slewfoot, that she had these abilities to like take
Oh,
things from
you're
the
talking about
earth.
Abatha?
Yes. You know what
Abatha,
I'm
yeah.
saying? Like take things from the earth and she's able to put things together and like provide relief, like if somebody's ill or if they have a wound. And of course she is, you know, people are suspicious of her. One reason I think is because she is no longer married. Her husband has died. And
Mhm.
I think one of the things as a single woman, even though she is a mother, that might have helped her a little bit for a short period of time, helped her out a little bit, is if you were a single woman, that made you suspicious. I mean, to
Yep. Yep.
men in the community. Uh,
Specifically in the Puritan community. So this was during the Salem witch trials. So like any even thought of something that could be blasphemous could be enough that you could be branded
mhm,
as a
mhm.
witch.
Well, and it's
So,
really, really sad too of how many people, like just something they would say in passing could possibly trigger something in someone to think something nefarious about that person. And it
yep.
could be just something as simple as I mean, it could be a positive comment and still turn out to have negative consequences.
Mhm.
And then the thing I find fascinating is, you know, Anne lives in a community and she does help quite a few people. But when the going gets tough and you've got these people that are going to start pointing fingers, you know, all of a sudden they're not having those nice things to say anymore for Anne. So we know that Anne has her daughter Florence, and we know that their relationship is kind of strained, I would say, because Anne wants to practice her way, you know, of the earth and all that, and her daughter Florence wants to practice the religious way. So
I
do you
mean,
have anything to say?
that's part of the strain. I mean, I think the biggest strain is the fact that Anne lies to Florence and ruins her engagement. And so
Mhm.
because Anne wants to protect them because she knows that they're going to be hanged. So I think that that's her main focus in the beginning is just getting them to safety. And then it becomes like, hey, we found this tree. And now that we found the tree, I feel the magic of this place. And I think that we'll prosper here. And then Florence hasn't been able to let go of this Puritan way in which she was raised her entire life. So that would not be an easy thing to give up. And so she's at odds with her mom in that, but she kind of goes with the motions because they're living in this community now, and she believes that her mom is just doing what's best for her till she finds out about her mother's lie, and
Right,
that's when everything kind of falls apart. So won't mention anything after that part, but
right.
yeah.
So then we also, and I don't know if anybody, let me go back before we move on. I don't want to, in case anybody wants to say anything about Anne. Andy's here. Hi, Andy. Welcome to our discussion. Um, we'll move on to Mary. Mary is living in 1953. When the way I envision Mary is almost like, the mom in Leave It to Beaver, or like Bewitched, Samantha in Bewitched. That's kind of like what I envision Mary to look like. The happy homemaker, all dressed. It always cracked me up that these women would vacuum and do their chores in a dress and high heels.
Yep.
Like, who does that? It's just so unrealistic. And then Mary is struggling with her sexuality.
Yep.
She's struggling with her religious beliefs, and feeling a lot of shame and guilt for her, how she is feeling. So she's living in a time period where this would not have been acceptable by any stretch of the imagination. And what makes it even worse is that of where it lives, actually. So it's like she's got a double whammy, not only from society, but also because of her religious affiliation. Do you have anything to add to that, Alex?
Probably the only thing would just be that she also has a best friend named Vera, who is a really prominent part of the story, and both of them have secrets to hide in their marriage, and they kind of confide in one another about what their secrets are, and that plays a big role in the way that things play out later on in the story.
Very much so. And then our last main female character is Camilla Burson. Her timeline is 2007. She is a teenager. I think she's about 16?
18. She's 18.
18. Yep. 16 is when the thing is supposed to have, or actually before that.
It's 11 and 12 is the purity ball, and she's 18, so she's 18. Way past the age where they normally are.
We'll talk about the reason for that. Yeah. But Camilla is, she's playing her part because she also is in this same religious affiliation, the Path. And she is the daughter of a pastor, which puts her
the head pastor.
The head pastor.
Yeah.
And puts her in a position where a lot of eyes are on her. So even though she doesn't 100% agree with what's going on, she plays the part because I think of what her role is in the Path. And I don't know, she ends up making some choices and decisions that really does change the tide. Don't you think? Do you have anything else to say about Camilla?
She's the stereotypical pastor's daughter that's the rebel. It's kind of what you envision for somebody that is raised in a very strict house, where she's just always trying to find her kind of her own way while in like her privacy when she's with her friends, versus the way that she has to be facing the entire community. And those are two very different people. She talks about like how fake she has to be, that like person that she imitates is not really her. But she does it because she feels trapped. She doesn't feel like she has a choice, which is also something that plays a part later with her friend Brianna, who is the only person of color in the Path, and her family are the only people of color. And they end up having a little bit of a falling out over kind of how Brianna views Camilla's position in the community. And that comes up later.
Yeah, so I mean, it's very interesting that when you think about the relationships of all three women, you have Anne and Florence, who are very close, and then something happens between them that drives a wedge, between them. And I think also Anne feels trapped in her situation. I think also when you look at Mary, you have Mary and Vera. They are friends. And they have something that happens between them that drives kind of a wedge between them. And I think both women feel trapped, but Mary feels trapped also. And then you mentioned Camilla feeling trapped, but same thing. There's a wedge that comes between her and her best friend as well. Yep. And so I do think, some of it is, I think, expectations and also like people trying to protect one another and also trying to protect themselves. that, and just like a lack of communication with one another, or like a trust kind of thing, perhaps. Jasmine said, I felt so awful for Mary. Zach said, the nonfiction I read this month, Caliban and the Witch by Sylvia Federici, is an academic analysis of the systemic way witchcraft accusations were about religious and monetary consolidation of power. That's interesting. Shame is a powerful thing, 100%. And that's the one thing that Kristi DeMeester talks about in the author's note in the Owl Crate edition, and also in that interview that I posted in the Discord. And Eleanor said the story of Mary and Sharon were so hopeful yet tragic. I agree. And I think her name was Sharon.
Sharon.
Yeah. Well, we would talk about Vera. We're talking about Vera and Mary in the path being friends. I don't know if that's, where that confusion was. Except she had a crazy, weird thoughts, gorging out eyes, scratching faces, etc. And my only 5-star from last year would make an excellent companion for this, especially if you like the 50s timeline, The Devil and Mrs. Davenport by Paulette Kennedy. Very nice. A good recommendation there. Okay, so let's talk about, I have a couple of questions I'm going to put up here, and we're not quite in spoilery territory yet, but after this we will be. So the first question is, which character and time period resonated with you the most? Alex?
I am always a fan of Salem witch trial stories, especially ones where women are actually witches. They actually have magical abilities. And so I think for me, because it was the place where everything started, and that's where the most of the mystery was. My favorite is probably Anne. I thought that they were all compelling in their own way, though.
Yes.
I will say that in the beginning, my least favorite was Camilla in the beginning. That changed later. I ended up growing to really like the way that her character was portrayed. In the beginning, I just thought she was a brat.
Yeah, I kind of felt that way, but I did resonate with her, with Camilla, and also somewhat with her mother, Ada.
Yeah.
That relationship. So, and then that time period. I don't know. I saw something in that. I don't necessarily as like a reflection of myself, but just something that I could identify, I guess, with.
Sure. Yeah.
Let us know which time period or character you resonated with. We would love to know. Angela said 1953. So Mary was the one that she resonated with. Let us know if you may not have resonated with anybody. That's fine too.
I did enjoy Mary's perspective.
I did.
Hers was arguably the most emotionally hurtful of all of them to me. That one was really hard.
Jasmine said, I think Camilla, just because of her development and ability to work through the problem and the family trauma. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that leads us with you saying about the perspective. Jamie said the 1950s time period. Stina says so far Camilla.
Yeah. I grow to really like Camilla too. Yeah, she kind of becomes a little bit of a little boss in her own right.
Yeah, and there's a question about that too. So even though we have a time period that we resonated with, which of the 3 perspectives was your favorite? I mean, I know it's kind of a different.
I guess for me that's kind of the same. I mean, okay, so it resonated with would be Anne. Became my favorite due to the nature of how the character progressed would probably be Camilla.
Okay. So Zach said I resonated with all of them, but I guess I go with Mary as the one that resonated with the most. 1953 was Eleanor. And The Housewife Finding a Woman, I Was Once Married to a Man. She was written well. And Catherine said, I really enjoyed Mary and Sharon in the 50s. It was very clear in my mind, especially the department store scenes. Yeah. And then Camilla for Angela. I, even though I resonated with Camilla and somewhat with her mother, Ada, I did enjoy Mary's perspective. There was just something about how Mary was written, and I don't know if after knowing how the author, even though, and this is just, letting you know, when you find out background from an author, it kind of like influences, I think, in a little way.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess you could kind of see it, like which person the author cared about maybe the most. She said she kind of identified with Camilla because that was her when she was in her church setting, kind of like she could have been that Camilla. She could have ended up, if she would have stayed in that church setting. But the person that she, you know, I guess cared about the most was Mary. And I think that came through in the relationship situation.
Yeah, it was a way for her to explore the part of herself that she kept hidden when she was a kid, that she was made to feel like shame about. She said
Yes.
like that was her chance, especially when she was writing about Sharon's lipstick. She said that was the thing that she really started realizing that she was working through something from her childhood because of the way that her mom treated her when she was carrying around her book. And she loved this image of this girl with these bright red lips, and she looked at it and said, "I want to kiss her," and her mom beat her. And it was
Yeah.
like, "Don't ever say that. Like you don't want to kiss another girl. That's a sin." Right. And so like that way of her being able to kind of explore that in a different way
Mhm.
probably was cathartic for her, even if it was, hard.
I think also too, some of our friends here have mentioned just it being a tragic situation. I mean, all of it's a tragedy, honestly, but
Yeah, every perspective's hard.
every is,
Every
but
single
I
one.
think just the
Yeah.
fact of being in that situation where you can't even truly be yourself and there's no way you can change it because you've got something that's keeping you there. And in this
Yeah.
case, it was Ada, baby Ada.
Baby Ada.
Like, that's what it always came down to. Like, she could have walked away at any time if she wouldn't have had her baby. And, that's something that we can talk about too, like what, some of the questions that we have here. It's just, I think that when you think about Anne and Florence, Anne knew what the ultimate outcome was going to be for her, and she didn't want that for her daughter. And she tried protecting, the situation. But I think she'd come to terms with that, like this is what's going to end up happening to me. I think I don't want to say accepted it, but she kind of accepted that that could possibly be her fate. But she was trying to prevent her daughter having that happen. But I think, and also with Camilla, things could have changed also if she would have decided to go to college, which that was one of the things Kristi DeMeester said that got her out of her church situation. And
Was going
the
to
ironic
college.
part about that was her mother believed in education and encouraged her to go to college. So that I think is kind of ironic considering,
Huh.
where they were at. So, to me, Mary, I think, was just, it took something that Mary didn't have. And I think that was tragic,
Yeah.
because of her situation. Anyway, um, let's see. Jamie said, I think the 1950s timeline was the most interesting with the multiple relationships. I agree. And yeah, it's a horror story. Yeah. Maybe not for the reasons that people would think.
Yeah.
You always want to know who the monsters are. You think because you're looking at this cover that this is the monster, these are the monsters, but little do you know. And Jamie said in the 1950s, they were truly trapped, no money of their own, no way to get away, and had the ability in her timeline to disappear. I think Camilla had more opportunities to get away as well. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think now we're going to be getting into spoilery territory. So, if you have not read the book and you plan on reading the book, then you might want to watch this at a later time. If you are just here for support and just want to hear what we talk about, like Liz says, she's here for the spoilers, then, make sure you stay and hang out. But you are warned at this point. Okay, so talking about our characters and the perspectives, did you find where's my question? I want to use my question since I actually put some in here. Did you find any of them unlikable or were they all sympathetic? Alex.
In the beginning, I found Camilla quite unlikable, but by the end, I found her extremely sympathetic. By the end, everybody was sympathetic. Mary was sympathetic pretty much from the beginning
Mhm.
because, like, her sense of claustrophobia being inside her house and being, just a stay-at-home mom, and all she did, like, we're introduced to her literally baking loaves of bread, and what did she say? She baked like 6 loaves of bread that day, and she was like screaming, like taking her loaf of bread and walking out into the woods and just chucking it out there because she's like, there's got to be more to life than just baking bread all day. And I've already vacuumed the floor and I've already done the dishes. Like, what is there left for me to do? And so that I understood from the beginning and situation as well, where we're introduced to her and it's like, yeah, we're gonna die if we don't leave. Like that's an immediate thing of like, okay, there's this problem. Camilla's was more like it almost felt like teen angst in the beginning where it's like, oh, my dad's the preacher and I've had to be the good girl all my life, but I want to drink and I want to rebel and I want to do all these things. And you don't really see the nature of how hard things are for her until the story kind of continues
Yeah,
on. And then you
until
realize
I
how
think
bad it is.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And that's to me when you really get a sense of like, well, no wonder she turned out the way that she did. And now that I know all of this, she's extremely like I'm not going to say that everybody every aspect of somebody's personality has to be pleasant or likable, but I thought that she was compelling,
Mhm, mhm.
and I understood her rebellion.
Yeah, and also, thinking about Camilla, Camilla has been sheltered for a good portion of her life. We come to realize that when we get to the purity ball, we're going to talk about that. There's things that there are expectations in the path for other girls that Camilla hasn't necessarily had to do. Like she's been kind of shielded from it, and mainly because of her mother. But I think what really turns the tide for her is when Brianna gets sent to the retreat. And then it's like they have a conversation even before that when they part ways after the prank, when they're out at the bonfire or whatever. I think, she starts getting things thrown at her that she has to take a hard look at herself, and then realize that there's parts of herself that she doesn't really like very much and
Yeah.
may have not really even realized that she was doing it,
Mhm.
until her best friend points it out to her,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
she's made to be the example, like the perfect example by her dad. Like, yeah, she might do things that are wrong, but oh, when she comes back to the community, look at how wonderful and glorious my daughter is. Look at how godly of a woman she is and how desirable. And even the way that he obsesses about her appearance, like because he's
mhm.
always talking about like, don't eat too many calories and you need to do Pilates with your mom. And you realize like the life that her mom is living, like she's got very sharp cheekbones and very hollowed because the dad has to have like this very specific
Yeah, I tabbed a
image.
part in there that at every time, every single time anybody pointed out anything about that, or like just like Mary having to not be able to take one of her
Her cookies.
cookies off of
Yeah.
Vera's plate or whatever, I was
Yep.
just like, I just,
Yep.
and I think because I never had that as a kid. Like my father never would have said anything like that to me, and my husband surely doesn't say anything like that to me. So I'm just like, I could not handle that. But I will tell you, in this day and age that we live in, there are husbands that tell their wives that, to the point
Oh yeah.
that there are women that I know personally that have done things, had certain kind of surgeries to please their husbands. And I'm just like, just shocked by that. I just can't believe it, like in this day and age. But again, I think when you think about yourself and how you feel about stuff and what you do, I think that's how you gravitate towards the characters that
Yeah.
I think that's one reason why I resonated with Camilla, is because she got to a point where she could stand up, to
Yeah.
that. And I would feel like I would had to run away myself, honestly.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's always about control. At the end of the day, the thing that we have to establish about the path is it's always about control.
Yeah.
Not only of the men, because the men have certain expectations, but it's like absolute control of the women.
Yeah.
So
Angela said, I grew up in a Southern Baptist church. This was not the life I led. This was a patriarchal cult-like church. And Jasmine said, I think because I worked in high school, I was always sympathetic to Camilla as well as the other two, because I just kids every day fight and struggle to fit the mold or fit the parents' expectations.
Yep.
Yes. And Jasmine said, I was wondered how her mom was able to convince her dad to wait. Yeah, it's very interesting to me that that she was able to do that. And as we, discover as the novel goes on, we realize that Ada really was suffering from like a PTSD situation.
Yes.
With the purity ball. And I think that's
Yes.
why I don't know how she was able to convince the father, with that, considering he is the pastor. That's one of the questions I have. Like, how is that logical? Would a pastor of one of these, really have done that? I mean, I don't know. That's a good question. I admired Camilla's courage and strength. I did too. And I wonder how her mom was able to get her dad. Oh, yeah. Okay. So that one just was a double comment. Camilla's dad decorated her room to his specifications. That was a big wow for me. That was creepy to me.
Yep.
That grossed me out. And I was hoping that it wasn't because something was going to was going to take place. Like, I'm like, please don't go there, because I don't know if I can handle, like, there was a reason why he decorated her room that way. Like, was there some kind of activity that was going to happen? I was like, please don't go there. I would have not liked that at all. Zach said, as someone that very much doesn't play nice with religion, I was on Camilla's side from the very beginning and know the weaponized, manufactured respectability. And Angela said, yes, Alex, that this was all about control. Or was he more so waiting for the boy to, I didn't think about that. For the boy to participate and drink the blood as well. I can't remember his name. Grant.
Yeah. Because he went off to law school. So he had to like come back. And it wasn't until he came back that Pastor Burson, that's the dad's name, the Pastor Burson was like, hey, I'm thinking about making you one of the leaders of the church, because in order to participate in the purity ball ceremony that we're going to talk about, you have to be one of the leaders. So
yeah. Yeah. So that may be why he was able to wait, why he didn't care, like that he was okay with, So Rob is here. Hello, Rob.
Was the Wild English ever corrected? It was.
Yes, the English is working. The English was working. And like, was Grant going to be the next head of the church? That's a possibility.
It's implied.
Yeah. So I didn't even think about that maybe he was waiting so maybe Ada thought she was pushing him off, but he had an agenda this whole entire time.
It's possible.
To do that, which is just gross to me anyway. The whole situation. I did not like it. Okay, so our next question is, why do you think the author chose two adult women and mothers in the earliest two time periods, but a teenager in the timeline closest to the present?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Did you want to answer this one first, Kat, or do you want me to?
You go ahead.
Okay. I really like this question. I had to think about it for a minute, and I honestly think the reason that Camilla had to be the one that was going to be like the chosen one, if you will, like the one who's going to solve the problem, who's going to like fix the curse, who's going to right all the wrongs that have happened, is because she wasn't attached yet. Like if she had been married, if she had had a kid, ultimately the mothers that we see, Anne and Mary, they're doing everything that they can for their child, right? Like they're
Mhm.
sacrificing so much of themselves for the betterment of their kid. And Camilla, I don't want to say like she has the right to be selfish, but she's an 18-year-old unattached young girl, and she, I think, because of the fact that she who had like was made to wait for the purity ball. I honestly, this was my opinion, I feel that it was destiny, because the drugs that they use on these girls did not impact her the way that it would have if she was smaller, and that was really the only way that she could have like seen everything for the way that it was, and the ending could happen the way that it could go. So I think it was just meant to be that is like she was the chosen one. Plus, she did have that rebellious spirit, and she had a rebellious spirit enough to actually try to do something versus be the one who was going to placate the way that all the other women in the community historically had.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Well, and we're on the same page with that. I
yeah,
mean, because when you think about it, Anne had somebody that she was protecting, so was Mary.
yeah,
It was not easy. They had already made their choices, and so they were going to have to, deal with whatever their consequences of their choices, because they really, neither one of them had a way to get out of the consequences, whereas Camilla did have a chance. And so I think it is kind of ironic because she waited, it really did backfire
uh huh,
on the father. And
it did,
I think, I mean, if you had to have revenge, that one was a good one to,
yeah,
have.
100%.
Angela said, honestly, I began to dread the next page, dreading that Camilla and her dad's relationship was going to turn into something very creepy. I
I
did.
mean, it did, it
I was,
did.
yeah, but I'm just saying, I thought it was going to be something else. And also, too,
Oh,
when he takes her to Paris to buy the clothing and stuff, I'm just like, this is just weird to me. I just,
that's interesting to me that you all felt that. I did not get that vibe at all ever that he wanted to have any sort of intimate relationship with her. I felt it was always about control, about like the father daughter dynamic, because some men are really like grossly controlling of their daughters the way that some women are grossly controlling of their sons.
yeah.
It's just like that, like the opposite sex parent dynamic, and his was just to the nth degree. I didn't ever get anything sexual from it though.
I don't know. I was just worried. I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't have anything to base it in, but I'm like, please don't let it like be some like weird kind of thing.
I mean, he
You
did undress her.
I know it's just,
So that part's weird. That came like at the very end.
I
And
know,
like dressed
but
her in new clothes.
I don't
So
know. It's just, I don't know.
yeah.
It's just like, it was uncomfortable. Maybe that's what it
Yeah.
is. I just
It,
felt very uncomfortable about that situation.
yeah.
Zach did make the comment, to when we were talking about like the religious and the control and all that, to look who all the religious people voted for the president last time. They want power and the appearance of mortal or moral
Moral.
respectability, but they do not care. Yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot of times people will hide behind that in order to think that they're doing the right thing. Catherine said, I think it was about breaking generational trauma cycles.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
It
think
was.
kids and really teenagers are strong in their thoughts and feelings. Like Alex said, she had nothing to lose at that point. Yeah, that's very true. Camilla also had to step up to save her mother,
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
which I was so happy because, that could have cost her a lot, but she was not willing to let her stay behind.
Yeah.
And Alicia Yo's here. I'm late, but I'm here. Well, welcome, welcome. And Alicia Yo, tell us, put your rating in here and let us know. It was ideology passed down from generation to generation. Camilla broke the cycle. Yes. And I agree with you, Alex. The pastor was creepy in that controlling way. And I was worried in the same way as you. Yes. I was like, please don't let it turn into something like that. Because that would have just been weird and not necessary, because we had enough going on that we didn't need that in the mix. I think that would have ruined the book for me. I'm just saying. Our next question is, why do you think the author chose to set the third timeline of the novel in the 2000s decade rather than the present day?
Okay.
Alex.
So I think it had to be because if she wanted a character to be from the 1950s, given the fact that we're now in the mid 20s of the 2000s, her characters would have been too old to have like maybe as much agency in the story. I'm not saying that
Mhm.
they would have been too old. I mean, my memo, who is young, was born in the 50s, but these women were adults in the 50s, right? So they would have been. I feel like for them to have as much agency in the story the way that like Vera did, because she played a big part. If she had aged her up another 20 years, that character might have had, I don't know. I feel like it would have been a different vibe, if that makes
Mhm.
sense, in terms
Mhm.
of like Vera's part in the story.
Mhm.
And so I feel like it had to be in the 2000s if she wanted Mary to be from the time frame that she was. And that's my opinion.
Yeah. I also thought because I did a little research about what was going on in the 2000s in regards to like this whole purity ball thing. Like this was 2007, so I
It
thought that
is.
was like a weird thing to have a purity ball. So I wanted to see if that was really an actual thing.
I mean,
And
those do happen now. I mean, those happen now.
okay, so like I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
but anyway,
yeah. They do, and again in very specific communities, which this is a very tight, close
right,
knit,
right.
lockdown community.
Well, and that's
So
what I
yeah,
said. I was like, maybe to illustrate, while women have made strides in some areas of the United States, there are some areas, especially religious communities, where women still must know their place. And what I found out is during this decade, there was a purity culture that came on the scene. There was public purity balls. There were tabloid culture where women, I guess, not doing the right thing, you would have these tabloid headlines and they
it's
would be
true.
shamed publicly.
It's true.
Also, when the author grew up, and there was a time when purity rings were a big thing, and they mentioned like the
I
Jonas
wore one.
Brothers
I
and
wore one for many, many years.
and Miley Cyrus, which I think is
So
ironic, and I
yeah,
think maybe Selena Gomez, but all these, different celebrities and there was apparently a book that was written that was, real popular and promoting this. And it all was because of an American evangelical movement emphasizing abstinence until marriage, strict modesty, and traditional gender roles. So I found that very fascinating because, in 2007, I'm trying to think, in 2007, I was a mom. Andrew was like 6 years old, and Barry was in college, my son Barry. So I wouldn't have really paid any attention to that. Going on out there. I didn't see any of that. So I did find that fascinating. Um, uh, Going back to Alicia Yo, she was saying that I gave it 4 stars. What did you guys rate it? I rated it 4 stars, and Alex is like 4 to
give, give,
4.5.
I like a solid 4.5. I like it
One
enough.
and a
I'm
half.
going to be that person. If everybody else says a 4, I like it enough to say 4.5 because I heartily recommend it.
Yes.
It's not a book I think I would ever need to reread because I would know at that point what
Right.
happens. Like it diminishes the mystery for me, and I never reread mysteries for that reason. But
Mhm.
I want other people to experience this book, and the 3 friends that I've recommended it to are all women, and
Yeah.
and who I think this book in particular would appeal to.
Yes. Yes.
So
Misogyny preached from the pulpit. Technology would have been hard to navigate with the story and the magic of it. Yeah, I think that would make sense. Did you think Noah with the dogs? I was going to go somewhere. I was waiting for him.
oh, to f some people up with the
Oh,
dogs
with the
because
pack of
he was
dogs.
a trainer of German shepherds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I liked Noah,
yeah,
actually.
yeah.
I agree about the technology, Jasmine. And yes, most definitely still happens, unfortunately. I remember like the Jonas Brothers were flaunting their purity rings on the Disney Channel growing up in the 2000s. You see
Yep.
that? That's incredible to me. I would never have known that. The Southern Baptists still have cotillions. Never even heard of that until I was older. And that book was called Kiss
It's
Date
dating
Dating
goodbye.
Goodbye, and the guy that wrote it is now an atheist who talks against purity culture. I did see that. I did see that. I think in the early 2000s were full of teens concerned about thinness. Not that it doesn't exist anymore, but it was towards the beginning of body positivity era. That's interesting to find out. I remember it was such a scandal with Nick Jonas. He was photographed without his purity ring, and he wasn't married at the time either. Scandalous. Well, I think about Miley Cyrus being one of them. And look at Miley Cyrus. Have you seen her Wrecking Ball video? I'm just saying. There's even a purity ball scene in Borat too. Oh, wow. Okay, so the next question is, who or what do the Dark Sisters represent? Are they a source of strength, a curse? And why do you think this? This was kind of a hard question for me because
Mhm.
I don't think there's just one answer.
No, there isn't, because they represent something to the community versus what they represent, I think, is like their embodiment, like the fact that they exist. So what they represent to the community in the book is described as like a warning to young women that, like, if you stray from the path, if you stray from God, you will be punished, you will be made sick, you might even die. And that's basically the worst thing that could happen, because it is viewed as like a horrible it's like against your badge of honor to have somebody in your household get sick, because they're viewed
Mhm.
as like an ungodly person, and only women can get sick. That's also the other thing we haven't talked about yet, is the illness, and only women can get it. So the Dark Sisters, it's to men it's funny, but to women it's scary, because everybody heard the rumors when they were growing up, and everybody's terrified of being ill, right? So there's that representation to the community of the path. But what they actually represent is unsought vengeance.
Mm,
They exist because there is a reckoning that they want to happen, and until they are approached by a woman who from the community, who is willing to accept them, who is part of their blood, who is part of the people who pass down the line of like this magic that Florence and Anne created with the tree, they will continue to exist. And so when you ask the question of like, do they represent a curse? Well, they kind of curse themselves. Like, their existence is their curse. The fact that they have to wait and watch all of these girls be brought to them year after year after year, and have their power taken from them by the men in the community. And they're just like
mhm.
basically pleading, like, somebody please, like, allow us to take this power back for you. Right.
Right.
And so I think what they represent, just because of what the promise that they made, that they would stick around, that's the part to me that was really sad. Like, they wanted so badly for these women to have
Well,
a
and
good
I think
prosperous life.
that one particular ending, and
Yeah.
that's a question later on, like, did you
Yep.
predict where Anne and Florence's relationship was going? Did the ending of their timeline surprise you? Um, when you find out really what their purpose is,
Yeah.
once they reconciled and once Florence is killed by her husband, and then they are like in communion with their blood and all that stuff. That whole scene was like terrible. Here Florence is thinking she's doing the right thing, and in the end, she
Yep.
was no better than her mom in the eyes of her husband.
Yep.
And this community that they had built. Anne and Florence wanted to be by themselves, and people followed them. And even with following them, they ended up in the same boat from where they came from. And that's what happened. Florence ends up trusting her husband, did not work out, and that's when she had to embrace what she and Anne had, and they were going to make that commitment to the future women. I think they become strength at that point, because
Yep.
once they find the girl that's going to be able to change something, the
Mhm.
trajectory of this generational curse,
Mhm.
once they can be finally at peace.
Yeah. And it's also important to talk about the fact that Florence created the illness out
Right.
of out of spite. Because
Yes.
when she finds out that her mom ruined her prospects of marrying the man that she wanted, she basically like curses the community and then leaves to go be a part of the Puritan community, which is how she finds the husband who views her as a witch and ends up with her ultimate demise after she gives birth
Mhm.
to a daughter of her own. So, you know, in the nature of the curse and how like when the women get sick, some of them don't heal and some of them get better. That was actually a part that it seems ambiguous, but it was ambiguous in a way that I liked, where when they accept all parts of themselves, when they accept the light and they accept the dark, that they can reconcile within themselves and they could be healed. So basically, the illness that they experience is from within. They're eating themselves alive from
Mhm.
within because they're
Yeah,
not being true
I
to
was
themselves.
wondering about that. I'm like, I gotta
Yeah.
figure out why is it that some of the women healed and some of them could not, some of them are end up and are they this is what I need to know. Do
Okay.
they sacrifice themselves when they go to the branch? Is it like their surrender that they can no longer like Mary goes, Tanya goes, they are stuck on the branch,
Yes.
like it impales them.
Yep.
Is it because there is no other way out but for them to go that route?
Yes, because they're compelled at that point. So they have rejected the ugly parts of themselves, the dark parts of themselves so completely that they aren't willing to even look at it. They aren't willing to accept it. And the only thing that they can do in this immense amount of suffering as their body begins to decay, as they deteriorate, they lose their teeth, they're spitting up hair.
Right.
All that's left for them at that point is death.
Mhm.
And so it's meant, of course, to be I don't want to say like a
Like an
mockery, but an
offering
imitation. Well, no, an imitation
of
of
Anne
Florence and
and
Anne.
Anne. Okay.
It's an imitation of them, like they're meant to live through that the same way that those other women did. But then the women who do get better are like they find some part within themselves, like Brianna did, you
Yeah,
know,
and
and
Ada
yeah,
does.
and Ada, yeah, she does in the end, and it's because like they find peace with who they are, and some women don't do that. You know, some women deny the parts of themselves their whole lives, and in the case of Mary, it was that she denied her love of Sharon and she went back to her husband and tried to
Yeah.
live the
Mhm.
life, and she got sick. She couldn't do it anymore.
That was so sad, that whole scene. Uh,
Yeah.
so Jasmine said, "I think it's more so about shame and acceptance, like it took a part of the bloodline to look and see the beauty in the tragedy and not the fear or need to hide the family trauma." I
Mhm.
think you're right, Jasmine. Gideon, that was a very twisted man. I agree,
Yep.
100%. One of the things the Dark Sisters represented to me was how superficial beauty is corrupt and fake. Yeah, because I mean, think about it. Beauty is going to fade at some point, and then what are you going to do? Like discard?
Yeah, because these women who are hiding these dark secrets, I mean, they really do rot from within, and it
Yeah.
steals everything from them. It steals them of their beauty, it steals them of their vitality, it steals them of their will to live,
Mhm.
even.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Florence brought that outside religious community in. If she hadn't, who knows how things would have turned out. That's true.
It would have gone much better if Florence hadn't been so angry because they would have just prospered. So,
Florence's husband had to go. He was awful. What Florence did to her mother and unknowingly the bloodline was also awful.
oh,
I
yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But you have to also hold Anne accountable because
Lying. Yeah,
for
she lied.
lying. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yes, they had to accept all parts of themselves 100%. And I think it's like they succumb to the shame versus the ones that survive. They embrace all of their own flaws.
Yes.
Yeah. They didn't accept their dark side. Yes. I agree with what Alex said about the tree compelling them. Yeah. I think Camilla was driven to change things because of the great love she had for her mother.
Mhm. And her
I
friend, she
think,
wanted
like,
Brianna to
her
be healed
her
too.
great love for her mother was like a mirror well, like, the opposite of Anne's love for Florence. Those 2 kinda mirrored each other, but the relationship. I mean, Ada loved Camilla too, but, I
Yeah.
mean, that was what she was fighting for, just like Anne was fighting for Florence.
Yeah, I guess if you want to continue on with that, Ada could have left with Camilla when she realized that the purity ball was something awful. Like Anne took away Florence to protect her. Ada
Right.
could have taken away Camilla but didn't, so it became the daughter then protecting the mom. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Um, and then Zach said, one of my bigger problems was the framing of how those parts of themselves were ugly and dark that weirdly reinforced the narrative of the so-called light the church's narrative represented.
I disagree with that because the point that Anne was trying to make is that the magic doesn't recognize ugly or good. It doesn't see like good or evil. It just sees things as they are. And so when they're talking about like the light and dark within themselves, they mean like the things that you love about yourself and the things that you don't like about yourself, which everybody has those things, and your ability to reconcile those together makes the complete person that you are. And you are neither good nor bad. You are the sum of all of your parts, right? But you're
Mhm.
also more than the sum of your parts. But I really think that that's what it was trying to be because the magic doesn't distinguish.
Mhm.
So,
That is a good point. So put yourself in Mary's shoes. Would you have pursued a relationship with Sharon? Did you think things would escalate as seriously as they did? So, what would you say, Alex? Would you have?
that is a really hard question
It
to
is. I put
answer
no.
because
I put no for
I,
myself. Not personally. I would not have.
yeah,
Only because of the time periods. Of course, I would not have. I mean, I'm not attracted to women in that way, so I would not have had a relationship like that. But say I did, I don't think I would have pursued it because it was just so dangerous.
hmm
I could see if Mary somehow waited later on, if she when Ada was older, kind
sure.
of thing.
Yeah.
I think at that time you would have been getting into the 60s
In the 70s, maybe
and the
even, yeah.
70s, and there was a lot different shift in what society was accepting at that time.
Mhm.
So I personally would not have risked it, not with Ada being so little. And I did not think it was going to escalate as quickly as it did. I was really surprised by that. I also don't think it was a good idea for Mary to ask Sharon to come to Hawthorne Springs for the purity ball of all things. I'm like, first of all, you don't talk about Sharon to your husband. He doesn't know this person. It's
Yeah.
so weird for you to say, "Hey, I want my friend is coming today," or whatever. And as suspicious as these men were in this community, Sharon's an outsider. I am sure just Sharon gave off different vibes
Oh, yeah, she
in the
did.
women in this community. So you almost wonder, it's like, is it the sort of thing that you just so much in love that you just so blinded, or you just not thinking about the ramifications of it?
I think the hard part for me to put myself in those shoes isn't even so much about, like, it was the fact that, Mary was closetedly a lesbian. It was more so that I can't envision being in a relationship where I feel that trapped, where I would be so desperate to find somebody else, and want
Yeah.
to leave. And so, asking would you have been in that position? It's like, well, I mean, in the era that we're in, like, I get to marry for love. I get to be with who I want. And so if I don't want to be with that person anymore, you get a divorce, right? And then you can be with somebody else if you want. But I think if I was living in that era, being just trying to be like the perfect embodiment of everything that a wife was supposed to be at that time, even if my heart was pulled in another direction, I don't think I could have. I
Yeah.
think out of sheer amount of guilt, or
Mhm.
like the thought of even doing anything that would be improprietous, if you will, I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, I don't think I could have either,
But
especially
it's not a judgment on Mary.
no, it's
I
not a judgment
understand.
on Mary, but I
Yeah,
mean, because we can't really put
I
ourselves
can't.
in her
No,
shoes 100%.
no.
And so it's difficult because we have our own thoughts of how we are now today. But knowing that you were constrained to that,
Hmm. Well, and she
and
was
also you
so
have a
cooped up.
baby. And,
Yeah,
and
and she
she
was
knew, she
miserable
kept
at home.
saying it over and over again that Robert would take the baby, that she wouldn't have her baby. And she loved her so very much. But ultimately, at the end of it, she ends up not being there for her baby anyway because she can't, everything goes, crazy after that moment. That was the saddest part for me was Mary just, when Mary denies Sharon,
Yeah.
and Sharon leaves.
Mhm.
And she felt such guilt and shame at doing that, that she couldn't even stand up to him for that.
Mhm.
It was just very, very sad. It
Sorry.
I don't know, it just reminds me of different movies or things that I've seen where people have made a decision and they think back on it and they're like, if I would have made this decision. I don't know if anybody's ever seen that movie with Richard Gere and Diane Lane. It's called Unfaithful. And Diane Lane's character makes a decision in that movie that she's sitting there reflecting on it. And like you play back that scene, but instead she makes a different choice. And
Oh.
if she would have made that choice instead, life would have been different.
Mhm.
Another thing that comes to mind, I had it in my brain and then it went away. It'll come to me when I don't need it anymore. But it's stuff like that when people are put in those positions where they have to make a decision. I think Bridges of Madison County has a scene like that where Meryl Streep's character, she has to make a decision, and what that decision is between her happiness and the happiness of somebody else.
Yeah.
And even if it's not a decision that we would make as ourselves, just because of whatever our beliefs or values at that moment is, it breaks your heart because a person has to make such a difficult decision that,
Yep.
and if they choose the one that's not going to lead to everlasting happiness or whatever, it's just like, well, what is that? Where's the point of living at that point? And I think that's kind of like what the breakdown for Mary was that she could not look at those parts of herself. She couldn't deal with what she did to Sharon. She couldn't deal with the fact that she was trapped in the situation and she was struggling to try to be this perfect wife and mom.
Yeah.
And then she just couldn't do it. I don't know. It makes me want to cry,
It
honestly.
And honestly, one of the parts of the story that upset me the most in Mary's perspective was the deterioration of her friendship with Vera.
Oh,
Because when she
yes.
accidentally betrays Vera when she's drunk. So Vera was a character I actually related to quite a bit.
I
I will
like
say I
Vera.
really liked her as a character. And I like that we got some perspectives from her in the end. This idea of a woman in that time not wanting to have children also is like so like unbelievably unheard of, and her having to sneak to go to the doctor to get a diaphragm, and she's like terrified of the idea of motherhood and has a husband that will not leave her alone, like no privacy, nothing, because
Yeah.
he's hearing these rumors about her. And the fact that all of that happened just because Mary accidentally like let it slip at a party one time. It's like, oh well, she just doesn't want kids, and all the women descend on Vera.
I know.
That part really
That broke my
sucked.
heart too.
Yeah, that was probably one of the most emotionally, like, I was cringing reading that.
Mhm.
Because she didn't mean to, and you know that she didn't mean to, and then you spend the book wondering, like, is Vera gonna betray her? She knows this huge secret. What's gonna happen, right? And I was waiting for that other shoe to drop.
Mhm. Yeah, so Andy said in that time period, no, was hard enough to come out in 2005. And Angela said, no, I wouldn't have. I'm not sure that I could have even tempt fate like Mary did, consistently going back to the store after the first meeting. Yeah, she took a risk every single time. In that time period, she would surely have lost custody of her daughter if she tried to leave or divorce her husband. That is so true and right. Such a nutty decision, and then to head out for a tryst. Sheesh. I know.
A
I
tryst, yeah.
know. I know. I was like, what are they thinking? You know, I was really kind of surprised that Sharon even went, considering their first like conversations about it. I was really surprised that they were that reckless. Let's invite the rando BFF to church service that I sneak around town to hang with. Like that won't backfire in my face. And yeah, Sharon was never going to be able to kowtow to those men. Oh yeah, 100%. Alicia said, I always knew Mary was going to die. I couldn't have escalated the situation without getting rid of the husband first. She was definitely blinded. And I couldn't understand why Mary wanted Sharon to see her church. That was strange. Sharon really wanted to be no part of it, but she did go out of love for Mary. It was bold. I
It was
agree.
because Mary wanted Sharon, against her own religious beliefs, to join the path so that they could be proximity, like physically closer together. And that part was something that did bother me about Mary's mentality, is
Yeah.
this idea that like Sharon should just give up part of like that obviously is a very important part of her. She has an altar, she has this belief in magic. She very clearly does not like the idea of Mary's religion. She gets a look on her face as soon as she finds out that Mary is a part of the path when they first meet. And so this idea that, well, you can just come join my community and fake it. And Sharon's like, no, they're gonna make me get a husband. You want me to have to deal with that? And Mary's like not fully wanting to reconcile that
It's
in her
almost like a
brain.
fantasy. Like she's
Yeah.
living like this fantasy self, you know, that it could be all like wonderful and, like this idyllic kind of situation and we could be buddies and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, Mary just doesn't realize that somehow, I mean, look, they were watched by Vera. You know what I'm saying? Like when they were having the tryst in the woods, who's to say somebody else wouldn't have come across them, at some
Oh
other
yeah.
point if they were
Robert, it could have
visiting
been
each
the
other
husband.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Eleanor said, I like that Sharon was a practicing witch too. I did too. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Mindy said, hello, I have been watching for a bit. I love this book and gave it 5
Our
stars.
first five.
Woo-hoo! Give us
Yay.
a
That's
hug,
great.
Mindy.
I love it.
And no one told Sharon about Mary's death, not even Vera. I know. I thought that was so sad too. Very, very sad. And how Vera's husband treated her when she came.
Yeah.
And Angela, I thought that was pretty jacked up of Vera not to tell her. And what about Mary being so miserable she wanted to self-sabotage because she couldn't keep living that way? She was with her husband, but also couldn't bring herself to make the harder choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's why Vera it was so close to Ada, was because I think she was trying to make up to Mary.
I mean, it was 100%. That's what it
You
was.
know,
She didn't leave the community because of Ada.
yeah.
So
Jamie
yeah.
said, I was so angry when Mary left Vera's secret out. Yeah. Anne told Florence's boyfriend that she couldn't conceive. Men chose women back then for their hardiness and ability to bear children to help on their farms and such. That is true.
Yep.
But also, why would she wish her own misery being married and hiding on Sharon?
Yeah, exactly. That's where it's like it wasn't
Yeah.
fully cooking in her brain.
Yeah.
I do
think
agree
she's
with the
just caught
fantasy.
up in all of it, and then the more she got deeper into experiencing Sharon and what she was experiencing with Sharon, I think she just got caught up in all of this. Let's make this try to have this fantasy kind of life thing when realistically it was not going to work that way.
Yeah.
So what did you think about the pacing of this book?
I thought that the beginning, and I do mean the beginning, like as in like the first 6 chapters, I was going through just going through the motions of understanding each character. I
Mhm.
wasn't really invested in any of them. I mean, I was compelled, as I said earlier, by the fact that like I knew Anne, she was afraid of dying. Mary felt cooped up, and Camilla is like, what the heck is going on with her? Once I got about the quarter of the way through the book, I was like, okay, I've really settled into these people. I know who they are. I know what they're about. By the time I got to the halfway point, everything just went great from there. I
Mhm.
loved the pacing of everything after that. So I wouldn't even say really that any part of this book is slow, but me trying to get into the characters took a
Mhm.
little bit
Mhm.
longer, I guess, than I would have wanted.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed it. I tend to like slow burns that, give backstory and some description, and as long as the payoff at the end is gonna be good, and I felt
Yep.
like, it was worth being invested in all that.
Hmm.
I did at first thought the ending was a tad abrupt. However, it kinda reminded me of something that's held back for a long time, and then it finally explodes,
Yes.
and that is kind of how once the Dark sisters, Florence and Anne, knew that Camilla was going to be their vessel or, person, conduit, or
Mhm.
whatever to do what they needed to do, I felt like it was like a pressure cooker and the lid just blew off and let's party.
Yeah. See, to me, that was like perfection. I loved how like when they finally get this moment to have contact with one of the women of their bloodline that they had been waiting for hundreds of years. It and the part about the ending description of, like, when they connected that really resonated with me is how she said that the information they imparted upon her was very gentle. It was like a gentle touch instead of like a flash of lightning when you envision God, like, puts a
Right, right, right,
and but it wasn't. It was like they just very calmly, even though they've been waiting all this time, very calmly communicated all the information to her, and she just felt peace. She was like, "Okay, I'm ready."
yeah.
And I liked that. I did.
Yeah, it's kinda reminds me of Carrie, when Carrie has had enough at the prom and she decides, "I'm gonna burn the town down," kinda thing, but I wanna show everybody, I'm gonna read these comments, and I wanna show everybody the last picture in here. Alex, the pacing was exactly the same for me, slow and then took off in the last, 100 pages. Jamie said, "I essentially read this whole book yesterday. I had only read about 40 pages prior. I was up until 2:30 AM, couldn't put it down." I love hearing that.
Yeah.
Zach said, "I locked in from the beginning. I didn't have to get caught up to speed with the various forms of control and oppression in the different time periods."
Yep.
Excellent. And kudos to Zach, for being our male representation
Good
here.
job, Zach.
I
Thank
love that.
you.
But I want to show everybody this is the end, and I didn't quite understand this picture, but if you see that that's the women at the bottom,
Yep.
and then here are our men in the
It's a
tree.
really great picture.
I
Like, that's
think
a
so.
great
Awesome. And
rendering of
then
it in the end.
at the beginning is Anne.
Yeah. That's beautiful too. I love the tree. It's not exactly as I envisioned it, but I really love that tree. The
And then I
knobs
want to also share that I think this might be Florence in the back. That's what
yeah,
Alex and I think, that is Florence, maybe
maybe
coming,
Anne. Yeah.
coming to Anne. And then this represents Mary and Sharon
Yeah.
at the tree. Anyway, I thought now after reading it, it's like now this all makes sense to me. So this art, so I was
That
very
artist did a great job. I like that artist a lot.
yeah, so I was very pleased with that. Um, let's see, and then we'll move on to our next one. Oh, Cat, did it ever explode? It exploded my brain. Honestly, the purity ball scene did me in, but it had to happen, I guess. It put the fire into Camilla, and we're going to talk about that
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Um, the purity ball was disturbing to me.
Oh,
Yes.
that was really awful. I was and I'm not squeamish, and that grossed me out so bad. Oh my god. Even more than the body horror. I could handle the body horror of the sick women, like, pulling their own teeth out more than the than the purity ball scene.
The purity
Um,
ball, yeah. So the question is discuss the purity ball and the events that occur each year during it. Okay. I thought the purity ball was just so disturbing. it made me, I'm just like, what is wrong with these people? Like, how can you do this to children? I mean, you kind of think Camilla is 18, okay?
Yes, yes. The
But
others are
normally they're doing it when they're like 11 and 12. So
yeah.
I'm just like, awful. First of all, I mean, how is that really any different than putting a date rape drug in a drink?
Oh no, it that's exactly what it was. That it was literally a date rape drug.
And
Yes.
then like telling, and so that was the part with Ada. I marked that part when she was talking about that, when she hears Camilla and she hears Vera and Ada talking. Camilla comes up. I still dream about it. My purity ball, everything's so heavy and I can't move. Like I'm being swallowed. Someone's laughing, but I can't see. I can't see and it hurts. And I wake up with this dread, like this cold running through me that won't stop. And I think about Camilla. And what if the feeling is right? What if something bad happened that night? What if it's still happening? How would we ever know? It's not for us anymore, the moms, just the fathers and the church leaders and the girls, while we sit at home with whatever these memories or dreams are. You know, her voice broke as she folded into herself, so small, like a child. That's trauma. You
Yep.
know, that's PTSD. That's the fact that she knows that something happened to her, you know, and then she's like, these fucking scars. She said, my father said I was dizzy, hadn't eaten all day to make sure the dress fit, that I fainted that night, but I wouldn't remember that, would I? Wouldn't I? Something like that, you know, and it's like she knows that she has these scars that just she didn't have before, and her father lies to her about that. So she knows that something is wrong and she
Yes.
does not want that for Camilla. She
Yeah.
doesn't quite know what happened to her, which
Yeah.
reminds me of like you're being drugged, like given a date rape drug, and then you're, it's against your will. You had no
Yeah.
choice for that.
And she also talks about the sound of the eating. She did talk about that like
Oh,
wet eating
oh yeah.
noise. And you know, you're led to believe that it has something to do with like the Dark Sisters are like on top of them or doing something, and it's like no, it's the men the whole time. And yeah, the fact that like at the core of it, it all began with Gideon, and Gideon is drinking the blood of Florence because he realizes in listening to them that the women are the ones that are carrying the prosperity for the town. So that's ultimately like where the ceremony starts. And from then on out, all of the women that are born in that community have to go through the purity ball because the men of the community have to absorb the prosperous blood in order for them to have all of the power. And that's the way that they keep the women subjugated is they take the birthright that was supposed to be given to them by Joan and by Anne and by the other lady whose name I can't remember at the moment.
Hope, I thought
um
it was.
who was it?
Hope, I thought it
Hope.
was.
Yes, yes, you're right. Thank you. Hope. Like there was these three women who made a blessing for their daughters, and that blessing is not coming true because of Gideon and all of the people who came after. And that's why Anne and Florence stick around. And
Yeah.
that's why we get the ending that we do, right? Where they're hanging in the tree and all of the women have to drink the blood back. Like they're literally, the men are being drained of their blood. Any of them who took anything, because it wasn't all the men. They did say in the book, it was not all the men of the community. Like some of the
No,
fathers
because
were
look at
innocent.
people like
Yeah.
Noah.
Yes, like, and so it wasn't all of them. It was just the ones who took part in the ritual. They had to be killed so that they could be drained of their blood so that the women could take the power back. And then it's implied that, like, now they can be the leaders of this community and they can be prosperous in themselves, which was their right at per their
Mhm.
the original blessing. And now they can be the people that they were meant to be.
Exactly.
And I did think the ending was extremely appropriate,
Mhm.
given like, and some people might be like, "Isn't that terrible that they died?" It's like, well, how many women died from the you know this illness from being
Right.
subjugated by these people? Like, how many years of their lives did they spend being told that they were the evil ones, like they were the ones that was carrying the sin in the community. They had no authority, they had no power, even their magic was taken from them. Like the only way that they could get that back, it made sense to me, it made sense in the context of the story that the men
Right.
had to die.
Yeah.
um so
I mean, it was hard to read that. We're 100% with Angela right here. The purity ball brought out the female rage in me.
Yes.
I was just like, I cannot even
I
like.
I also have one more thing. There's one more thing I wanna mention too, because it was not only the fathers that drank the blood of their daughters, it was their prospective husbands that
Yes,
did too, and
yes,
that was really gross.
yeah. It makes my stomach like.
Yeah.
I mean, I could watch a vampire bite a woman on the neck and suck the blood from the woman, and that does not bother me. This is a totally different ball game. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? I don't
Well, at
know
least with the
why.
vampire, you're hoping she's having a good time, so,
Right.
yeah.
The ending was perfect. I agree. Let's see. Yes, to their own children. Yeah, to their own children. It's I just and just to think that that is what your relationship with your future husband started off like. You know what
Yep,
I'm saying? And like he has knowledge of it, but you don't.
yep.
You know,
Ugh.
I cringed and looked away from the book. I shook my head and said, "No, no, no." Yeah, the purity ball was sick. Yes, I agree. Two questions. Did the drinking of blood not really make that much sense in regards to the magic to you? And do you think the author chickened out from using menstrual blood?
No, it
Mm,
made sense because the blood was what contained their magic.
yeah,
That's where it all was, and that's how Gideon figured it out in the beginning. So I think it made perfect sense to me.
yeah, it made sense to me as well. Um, Maybe it's implied about the menstrual blood because of the age that they chose the girls to have their purity ball.
Yeah,
Um,
I wasn't really thinking about that. I mean, I guess
I
being the
mean,
coming
it
of age
maybe that
or
was
putting on the
implied,
leg. Yeah. Yeah,
you know.
yeah. That's fair. That's fair. I didn't think about that.
Purity ball came to be the ick, like it must the cut and blood sucking take place on that spot. Like, why? I know. It's
I mean,
so
I think Zach does have a good point. I wasn't really thinking about that because it is extremely intimate. Like, why the inner thigh? Why
yeah,
not the wrist? I didn't think about it like that, but yeah.
yeah. And blood, holy cow, that would have ranged for a girl's purity ball is horribly grotesque. But that's what I'm saying. It wasn't necessarily that blood, but it could be that she had to be of age.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that may be why it was the 11, 12 range. And that might be why there was a variation in the age depending on when the girl did.
You know what's funny is the way the men in the community react when Camilla talks about how she got her period, and she's like, "This is the excuse that always works because the men get grossed out." So I don't know how much the men would be comfortable with that because they find periods absolutely revolting.
Yes, they do.
So
But I'm
I
just
don't
saying, I wonder that's when they kind of figure they become a woman if they're going to have a future husband or whatever.
yeah, yeah,
Fertility,
yeah.
you know. So nice ending summary, Alex.
Thank you. I
And
try.
Zach's got a good point on that, and now I'm even more icked out. I
Yeah,
know, really.
yeah.
And partly it's a good place to hide the scar. Yes, that
That
they did
too.
make that
Yes.
comment about that.
Yes.
Okay, so we have more questions, but I do realize that we are like now like an hour and a half, I think, into our conversation. So um I want to just say that let me just make sure if there's anything. Oh, one question. How do you think Camilla was able to channel the power of the Dark Sisters at the end? And do you think she earned the right to wield that power?
I do think she earned the right. I absolutely do because she was the one with the rebellious spirit. She was the one with the conviction. She was the one that found out everything that was going on and got her father's Bible and had the friends that helped her out. And I genuinely believe that because of her age at the Purity Ball and the fact that she was able to resist the drugs even as much as she could, that it was meant to be her. So, yes, I do believe that it was
I think so
destiny.
too. And I think the reason
Yeah.
she was able to do it is because I think it's the same thing like with the carry, that it's just, it got to a point that it surfaced. I think it was her rage that
Yes.
was able for her
Mhm.
to embrace it
Yeah.
and because she was violated at the purity ball. She knew she was being and instead of hearing laughter, she heard crying, which is a
Yes.
difference between Ada. And I think that manifested the power through the Dark Sisters. I definitely think she earned it. I think there comes a point where wrongs can be righted, and Camilla saw her as the person that was going to right that. When she realized that the Dark Sisters were not to be feared, but to be
Hmm.
embraced,
Yep.
then that changed the trajectory of everything with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and that was all. And the so sad part is that was all they were waiting for that whole time, was just for somebody to not be terrified of them. And I loved the description in the book about how, because the tree was the thing that was tethering them to this world, it was keeping them alive. It was what they made the communion and the pact with, right? And how the tree, again, because it can't distinguish beauty from ugly, it kept their visage of their death, so, and the
Mhm.
tree didn't know better. It wasn't trying to make them grotesque. It wasn't trying to make them terrifying. It was an unfortunate side effect of the magic. And so for them, they're just waiting this whole time, like, please, just one of you, don't be afraid of us. We love you. We want you to be okay. We want you
Yeah.
to
But
prosper.
it is kind of
And
creepy when they're like coming
oh
down
no,
and
it
like
is.
coming.
Yeah, no, it is.
Like,
But it's not their
oh.
fault. It's not their
Right,
fault.
right.
So yeah,
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 so Angela agrees Camilla totally earned it, especially in a society that hides women's bodies except from their husbands. Hiding the scar wouldn't be difficult.
yep,
Exactly.
yep.
Camilla Scooby Dooed the hell out of that mystery. She totally deserved the power. I love that. I think she earned it, but she had a lot of help from her friends as well. That's true. She had the girl that was at the retreat. She also
Yes,
had Noah and
and
Brianna.
Brianna.
And don't forget, Carrie started manifesting her powers after her first menstruation. Yes.
That's
So
true.
there, a lot has to do with the blood there. Last question. What did you think of the expectation? And we're talking about the retreat. I'm thinking here,
Okay,
this
the
was your
retreat.
question. What did you
Yep.
think of the expectation of retreat versus the opulence it was?
That was so messed up because the women the women are terrified to go to retreat because of the shame and stigma that it represents, that like you have fallen away from God, you have been disgraced. Now the men in your life have to come and collect you to go take you away for an indeterminate amount of time. And you kind of feel like you're going to jail, because you are. But it's a very plush jail. And
Yes.
the thing that I love so much about the fact that Camilla goes there not once but twice is she gets to see, in the first time, the way her father wanted her to see it, is like, no, look, it's this beautiful place where you get to recuperate and come back to God, even though they're drugging them, they're trying to. The
Right.
second time, she's chained to the hospital bed and all that stuff's gone, and you see the way that it is for other women, the
Yeah.
women who came before, the women who fought, the fact that she got tased. They have like a special medical room that they take them to, and God only knows what happens in there, right? So like the even what they were showing her in the beginning, as awful as it was that she was being held against her will, she at least was comfortable, and then she got to see it for what it
Right.
really
Right.
was.
I mean,
And that,
it's pure
yeah.
manipulation. Pure
Oh yeah,
manipulation.
it's so gross. And that freaking Barbara lady, I hated her. I
Yes.
hated her.
Yes. I was so hoping that Camilla was going to like punch her in her face or something.
I
I
mean, but
just
she
was
came to
like,
the tree at the end. She came to the tree and got her power back at the end. She was one of them. So,
that kind of stuff just reminds me again of movies and things that I've seen over the years where people, and then they're made to feel they had all that gaslighting, like you made
yeah.
to feel like you're the crazy one, that this isn't really, what's going on and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
like
the sad reality is, women are still, being oppressed in ways,
yeah.
there still are repression tactics out there, for women. We've made strides, but we still, but the thing is I think we're also manipulated to think that we've made strides.
We've regressed a lot in the last handful of years. Um And I'm not going to make this stream about this. It's merely just a comment because like talking about Vera, this is what brings us to my mind. Talking about Vera and her desire to not have children. Like just this past week, Tennessee passed a law that if you are a woman who gets an abortion, that you could be sentenced to death. Like that is one of the most insane things to
Yeah.
me. Like to think
Well,
about
and
that.
what happens if, you miscarry, or,
That's
is
the
that going
thing
to
that
be looked?
people are trying to find out, that because how do you prove which one it was? And
Yeah.
that's what feels very scary. I mean, still for women today is I feel that I have more rights than Mary did in the 1950s? I 100% do.
Yes.
I
Yes.
do, but there are certain ways in which we still do not have bodily autonomy. We are still not fully free. We are still not equal pay, equal in every regard. And there's a lot left to happen. And so having a book like this, I feel, is cathartic
Yeah.
in that way. Because you want, I mean, I want to believe that at some point in time, and I'm not saying through violence or anything like that, but I want to believe at some point in time the women will be able to have our place where we get to like have our own prosperity, not,
Mhm.
in symbolically, we have our own prosperity in
Yeah.
society that's not predicated on men. Um, and I've worked my whole life for that. I've
Mhm.
been a strong independent woman my whole life. I didn't meet Keaton until I was 26. I didn't date or anything until I was 26. And I went to college and I got awesome grades and I went into the workforce and I bought my own house and I did everything that I felt could smash a ceiling as a woman before I decided to have my home domestic life. And
Right.
that was my choice. And I don't care what anybody else does. That was my choice. But I felt like I had to prove to myself that I can even do that. And even in accomplishing those things, I still feel that I have restrictions. And I feel that that's deeply unfair because I'm like, God damn it, didn't I work hard enough? Haven't I done everything you want of me at this point? Right. And so I just think it's a really great book. Not
Mhm.
to get on I'm sorry, I'm on a soapbox. I don't mean to be
No,
on a
no, but
soapbox,
it's true, and
but it's
it does make you think. Like, we think about the time periods, 1750, 1953, 2007. We're in 2026, and we're still having issues.
it's
We're
relevant. It's all
still
relevant.
Yes, we're still having
Yeah.
issues, and I think we are still being manipulated at times to think that we are further along than we actually are. And
Yes.
it depends on what season of life you're in,
Yep.
depends on how much you're impacted
100%.
by the rules and what's going on in society, for sure.
Yep.
So let me go ahead and read these last comments that we have, and then we're going to wrap this up because we have taken a lot of your time this evening. It feels like a BS timeout given by the men for women that aren't acting right. Shaking my head. Did anyone think this book club discussion would include so much talk of
I
menstruation?
did not.
Wasn't anticipating that. Thanks, Dad. Angela said, I love the ending. In the end, we all wear our brutality like beautiful cloth in the name of love. That is a beautiful quote. Thank you, Angela. A hellish retreat. I agree. I didn't buy that there wouldn't be a bunch of sexual assault at retreat. That's a very common tool in patriarchal societies to maintain fear and power. It's a control thing for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely.
This was the past, but it still reverberates today.
Yep.
One thing I was shocked you didn't bring up is how Vera and Florence both betrayed another woman, which helped to maintain the status quo and harm it all of them. Yeah, I think, and we do see that today. Honestly, it amazes me today how much when women, you can have some very supportive females, group,
Mhm.
but you also can have women that are backstabbing other women, which I don't understand that.
Yep.
Um, you would just think because we're in a situation where we could benefit from having numbers,
Mhm.
But just like the women who were fine with sending their daughters to this purity ball every time, or the women that liked their lifestyle of being wealthy and having a husband that takes care of them and all that, a lot of those women bought into that. Look at
Yes.
the women that attacked Vera for not wanting to have a baby.
Yes. And I do think that, I guess, a little bit of difference with Vera and Florence is that theirs was out of retribution. Theirs was out because they had been hurt by the other
Right.
woman. Like, they weren't the instigators. They
Right.
were kind of attacking back. Vera didn't even necessarily mean to. She wasn't even trying to out Mary for being a lesbian. She was just saying, hey, she was hanging out with Sharon, and Robert was able to deduce that, well, something's not quite right just by
Well,
that one comment.
and I think the reason why is because he never heard of Sharon until this night. If Mary would have talked about Sharon and had met Sharon, it would have been a little bit of a different ball game, but
Yep.
she did not. She hid
Yep.
Sharon from him, and then wham, here's Sharon, and oh, I saw them in the woods. Well, what was she doing in the woods with Sharon when she should have been with me? That kind of
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
He did not like that influence. Women today still feel like a failure if they can't conceive. That is very true. And
Sadly.
amen to Alex. And it didn't fit in my playlist, but another song I'd add is Battlefield by Sky. I guess that's DX.
Sky Daddy.
Sky Daddy.
Looks like Sky Daddy.
I know. Zach said being open about menstruation is one of the ways I help fight the patriarchy.
Thanks, Zach. We appreciate you. You're an ally to the women.
Yes, we do appreciate you very much for having a different point of view. You're our Noah. You're our Noah.
That's true. You're our Noah
from our book.
Friend of the show.
Yes, we love that. Sharon is my mom's name, so that part was a little weird. And there's absolutely nothing gross about menstruation. It's a bodily function. That is true. That is true. Okay, so before we let y'all go, first of all, thank you very much for sticking with us in this conversation. This was a wonderful conversation, a wonderful discussion. Very, very happy everybody attended. But we do want to point out that our March-April book is by Nikki Ehrlich, and it is The Measure. So we're hoping that y'all will join us for this one. This is a little bit different, from Dark Sisters, but I think it's going to be a good time, and I think it's going to be thought-provoking. This was recommended to me by my cousin's wife, and I had this sent to me after a BookTube Besties retreat, and I hear it highly praised. So I'm hoping that we will enjoy it as much as other people I've heard have enjoyed it.
Yes.
Look at Angela's praising you, Zach. Woohoo! Zach is on Noah in here. Long live Noah. I'm not an ally. I'm a weapon.
I like that.
Fantastic discussion. Could go on all night. Oh yeah, there's so much. I had other questions that I could not. We kind of touched a little bit on them. Yeah. This was incredibly interesting conversation. Thanks, Kat and Alex. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you for coming.
I appreciate you being here. I'm going to read that in March. Excellent. I'm very excited for The Measure. Excellent. Too funny. One of my in-person groups is doing The Measure, so I'm already planning my reread. Yay! And thanks both of y'all. I think this was a fantastic book discussion. Thanks so much, Jasmine. I really appreciate it. You're going to love The Measure. You'll be thinking about it long afterwards.
That's what I like to hear.
Great insight to the book. Thank you all. Thanks so much, Eleanor, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. I'm excited for that one. Yay. I'm so glad you are here. And Mindy said, I'm looking forward to The Measure. Wonderful. I'm loving this. Thank you, Mindy. Can't wait for The Measure. Woohoo. I hope it's going to live up.
I'm so excited. Everybody's going to be there. It's going to be round 2.
I'm excited. Thank you so much, Linda, for being here. She's saying bye to everyone. And then great chat, ladies. Thank you, Alicia. Yeah, we appreciate you.
Thanks for hosting, Kat.
And thanks for being my partner in crime in this book club, Alex.
Always. I love this. This is honestly one of my highlights. It really is. Like, I love it. And speculative fiction is one of my favorite things. So
Yes,
the
I
measure,
know.
I turned around because I was going to grab my copy. Then I realized I don't have one yet. So I got to get my copy of the measure. Oops.
That's
So I'm going
funny.
to get that.
Angela's got a PSA: steer clear of cult like religions. If you're born into them, you will have to fight harder, like Camilla. Yes. And bye to Mindy. Bye, Mindy. And thank you both. Great book, great discussion. Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate you. And night, everyone, from Jasmine. And thanks to YouTube for cooperating. Yes, gold
Yes,
star for
thank you.
YouTube.
Much love to everybody.
Yay. Yes. We'll see you soon. We'll see you soon. Great discussion. Love your thoughts and comments. Thank you so much, Angela. And
Thank you
until
all.
next time.